If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So how many of you have ever gotten a butt dial or a text from somebody and it didn't look like they were talking to you? So you, as a courtesy, write back saying, hey guys, or hello, I don't know if you want me, if you were aware, but were you really talking to me? And they're like, oh, my bad. Thank you. Sorry about that. Disregard. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten emails or texts. And what you do is you notify the person early on that, this could be an error. You don't wait, read, continue to follow along, and then decide to make a name for you in journalism by publishing it all over the place and now making such a mass spectacle. Even if that was a mistake, the group chat, So I'm sure many of you have heard the story. Jeffrey Goldberg writes this article that's giving him a lot of fame right now, how the Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. And basically what happened is they had a group chat on a messaging app called Signal, which I don't believe is supposed to be used by government officials, especially to talk about things that could be classified or unclassified. And he said he, I guess, got an invite to this. I think this was March 11th. He received a connection request from a user identified as Michael Waltz. And the Signal is an open source encrypted messaging service. It's very popular with journalists. Not sure why Mike Waltz sent this to him. And so originally when I heard this, I'm like, was this set up? Was this something that was hacked? Are people pretending? But from what we're understanding, that the chat was legit. These were individuals, including Pete Hegseth, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, that were discussing things. Now, was it necessarily a level of classified material that could be cause everybody to lose their security clearances? Unsure. But did they talk about something that could be inferred as something that could be used as classified? Remember I told you how something might not necessarily be classified, but it could be revealing classified information, such as what we talked about, the Elon Musk email. So asking the ICE department, tell me 5 things you did last week. What did you do last week? Well, if a bunch of members in ICE said, well, we were in San Antonio. I was in San Antonio. Can't go into further detail, but, well, then you're going to think, okay, well, obviously something is going to happen, either a raid in San Antonio. So that could then reveal or divulge a possible classified operation, even though all you said is I was in San Antonio. This is hypothetical. So my concern here is if you were accidentally added to something, and I get curiosity killed the cat. You want for you to be able to have a bird's eye view, and I understand journalists are not the most ethical people. All right, rather than doing the right thing, they will wait, play dumb, and then decide to take advantage of it. Not all journalists, but that's what this one did. And you could say, but Dr. Daliah, somebody needs to know that this happened. They need to know. Well, that's why you respond back immediately. If somebody is asking you to join a chat and then you join it, and you could say, hey, guys, I'm here. Why? I mean, you don't secretly just listen in. You don't eavesdrop. If you were invited, you make yourself known to, when you go to a wedding, right? You say, hey, guys, thank you for inviting me. Right? You don't just sit there and hide. You were invited. So obviously you were invited for a reason. You're supposed to make yourself known. Didn't. And maybe Mike Waltz was starting to do a group chat that was supposed to include a journalist. I don't know. But no way should this have happened. And now it's a mess. And I don't believe there's going to be, everyone's like, oh, who's going to get fired? Is Mike Waltz going to get fired? Is everybody, listen, if very, very high level security classified information was not shared, Tulsi Gabbard is right now at the hearing saying this isn't classified material, then I don't think there's going to be major repercussions. I think there's going to, this is going to be a slap on the wrist. You guys get your act together. But this is this shows how vulnerable we are. I mean, in the olden days, you had to meet for a meeting. You couldn't just call on a telephone because you'd only get one person. You'd have to call people individually. So if you wanted to assemble multiple people, you had to all be in Washington. Well, nowadays, everybody is across the globe doing what they have to do. So for them to be able to have a meeting, they do it virtually. And they do it through, although there are government avenues to do that, email threads, etc. Now people want real-time discussions, chats, Zooms, and this shows our vulnerability. Either vulnerability by human error or vulnerability by hacking. How somebody could add a journalist and why only him? My guess is they were trying to hit maybe, I don't know, J.D. Vance, and they got J.G. Because, a lot of these chats, when you add a person, your mouse could very easily hit somebody underneath somebody else. I just can't stand group chats. I can't stand my family's group chat. I love my family, but I just can't stand the whole group chat thing. Yeah. And, in a work meeting, even, when I at work was working with multiple colleagues, we still met in person. The group text was, let's meet in person. Let's discuss this in person. It wasn't, let's make decisions over a chat. And so, yes, it was a mistake, but I think the journalists should have let them know day one and not decided to do this hit piece. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. If you ever miss our show, just go to drdaliah.com. So we have some breaking news. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has suggested this week that she might nix FEMA, the Federal Emergency Services Agency. And she, from what we understand, she and President Trump want to give states more control over their own disaster relief. So let me just tell you what we've heard. This is according to the Western Journal, where the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, will be eliminated. We don't have a lot of details. This is according to a report from the Daily Beast. And she and President Trump have suggested states should exercise more control over disaster relief than having a federal entity manage the responses. FEMA is under the Department of Homeland Security. And this isn't the first time this has been brought up. She has said she wanted to eliminate FEMA. And now it sounds like it's one step closer to that being done. Now, as I said, we don't have a lot of details on this, but FEMA has been under a lot of scrutiny. One, they have a $33 billion budget, and they've made some headlines when after, I forget which hurricane it was last summer, they said, we don't have enough funds for another hurricane. Like, what are you talking about? You have a $33 billion budget. Why don't you have the funds? They said, we just don't have enough funds if we have any more disasters. So, okay, one is what's happening with the money. Then, when there was the hurricane relief that needed to be administered quickly in North Carolina and Florida, there were multiple complaints that it was slow. And then the big fiasco where there was, again, a group text, where they suggested to not go to homes that had a Trump sign, saying those individuals are going to be more, I don't know, either aggressive or they said for your safety, don't go to homes that are promoting Trump to help him. And you're like, what the hell is this? And then they fired somebody as a scapegoat, but obviously this came from higher up. And they said, and the person who was fired said this is pretty systemic throughout FEMA. And I said when this happened, okay, you cannot have a government agency that only decides to choose and help some Americans. Okay, we don't just help white people. We don't just help minorities. We don't just help men. We don't just help women. Okay, we help everybody when there is an emergency and there's a disaster. This is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. You get fired if you're picking and choosing who you're going to help. And so the fact that, public officials are like, what are we doing with FEMA? They say they don't have enough money. They're getting 33 plus billion. I think 20 plus billion is in the disaster relief fund. And then the relief is slow. There's too much bureaucracy. The states could probably do a better job of helping their constituents and hopefully not pick and choose based on their political affiliations. You know how ridiculous that is to hear that somebody who could be Democrat or Republican, based on what signs they have in their front yard, could make or break if they live or die in America and get relief during a hurricane or flooding or earthquake? That's sick. That's disgusting. So what would that be? Let me ask you guys. Should FEMA be nixed, disbanded, eliminated, and should the states have more control? 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. As I said with the Department of Education, I always am on the side of states having more control because they could do more. They know more about what their local school districts need or local hospitals need, but only if they're going to do the job. Okay? We saw, sadly, throughout COVID, where parents were begging their local school districts to do something or to do things right, and it was falling on deaf ears. And so I'm convinced that states having control is better than the feds if you could convince me that the states are going to do their job and these local jurisdictions are going to do their job. Okay, remember, the cancer that exists in the federal government in terms of bias, in terms of not doing their job, bureaucracy, can still exist on a more micro level in local governments. But I trust my state, and I believe our Governor Lombardo, and I believe our state legislature and the Republicans and Democrats will work together to make sure whoever needs assistance in Nevada based on flooding, earthquakes, etc., whatever could happen, snowstorms, fires. We do have wildfires that affect a lot of Nevada, especially northern Nevada. I believe our government in Nevada can handle it pretty well, not to mention quickly. Now, usually when there's a disaster, the president will that afternoon or evening say, okay, it's an emergency. We're here to help. Hey, we're going to send funds. Okay. So funds get sent. Well, then what? Okay. Where do the funds go? Okay, what bank account? Now, who takes those funds and what are you doing with them? And then when do those portable housing units come in? And then when do the volunteers come in? And then, and so I think having, the local, and I understand that there's a lot of people saying, no, it's too much. The state is doing too much. We need federal management, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. But if we're not thinking they're doing their job, and sadly, what we saw with the hurricanes that affected North Carolina and Florida showed bias played a role. Okay, come on. That was disgusting. I told you when I was an ER doc, some guy comes in having a medical emergency and he has a big swastika on his chest. I took care of him. I saved his life. I wished him well because I wanted him to, follow up with his doctor and be healthy. But, he had a swastika. The guy was if he really was a Nazi, now who knows? Did somebody put that on him? Was he not of sound mind when he got the tattoo? But him having a tattoo on his chest didn't mean that I sacrificed my ethics, ethos, whatever creed, promise, vow I made when I decided to take the Hippocratic Oath and become a physician. It doesn't mean I blow him off or let him die. Meanwhile, you saw, was it New Zealand, those nurses going, if it's an Israeli, oh, no, they died. Oh, sorry, I didn't help you. Or they were making up. Are you kidding me? Don't be in healthcare. Anybody who decides that they are going to put their bias and bigotry and anti-Semitism and racism first should get the hell out of medicine, should get the hell out of politics, should get the hell out of education. That's not supposed to happen. Can you imagine a teacher who decides, I'm going to teach you less because I don't like you? or because your dad has a Trump sign in his lawn, that teacher should get fired. But that's the way society has been. And FEMA has shown evidence. And people say, gosh, Trump just wants to nix everything and throw everything out. And well, if it's too hard to fix, then, sometimes that's the better way to do it. Guys, give the states the money. The states will have access to the money in an emergency. Maybe they have to go through the Treasury. Maybe they have to go through the State Department. But they have access to the money. And they don't have to go through FEMA. They have access to the portables. They have access to the volunteers. And, that's going to be easier than trying to fix the rot or fix the cancer that has evaded so many of our government agencies. Now, there was a physician, he was a specialist, who said that his staff had gotten so bad in terms of stealing, in terms of not doing the work, that he decided to just fire all of them. And this was the second time he had to do it in his career and start from scratch. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine fire, because what if you have some good people? I couldn't imagine that. But he said the only way to end the toxicity is to cleaning it out. It's like if you have fungus in your refrigerator, you don't just pull out the little baggie of the old food and then do a little scrub. You got to clean out that whole refrigerator. Well, that's what I think Noam and Trump want to do. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So as measles cases continue to spread across the U.S., many people are asking, should they get a booster? So if you received your 2 shots of your MMR vaccine, as of now, we do believe that you should be fully vaccinated. But that's not a 100% guarantee, especially since we have seen measles outbreaks in individuals who have been vaccinated. They're not giving us the numbers. We know the outbreak in Western Texas is almost 300 cases, but we don't know how many of them are vaccinated and how many aren't. The young girl who died was unvaccinated, we're told, but that doesn't imply that everybody who's been getting measles is unvaccinated. So this is a pretty simple question to answer. And I don't understand why it's taking so long for us to get the answer. Remember there was that outbreak that started in Disneyland when there were some international visitors, and there was a measles outbreak. I forget how high. I mean, I think I might have got to like the, maybe 50, 60. I forget the total number. But many individuals were vaccinated who got measles. So we had this conversation years ago. Do you need to get a measles booster? Well, if you are immunocompromised, if you are at high risk for encephalitis, high risk for pneumonia, high risk for sepsis, your doctor might suggest you get some extra protection. But for the average person, no, we are not telling people to go and get an additional booster. Now, what I want as a physician and as a mom and as a concerned citizen is some more data. How many of these 279 cases in Western Texas or 38 cases in New Mexico were in unvaccinated individuals versus vaccinated? First, give me that information. And then I could decide, it looks like this is affecting vaccinated individuals. Number two, tell us if this strain is a new strain. Is it a strain that is evading our artificial immunity or vaccine immunity? Natural immunity is you get an immunity by naturally going through a virus or illness. Artificial immunity, or they don't like to use the term unnatural. And in fact, you don't even hear them use artificial immunity. They just say vaccination because people think artificial is has a negative connotation to it. Artificial immunity, though, is you getting the immunity artificially, not naturally by us injecting and giving you a vaccine, which is why some people say, well, you don't necessarily have to call it artificial. Let's just call it vaccine immunity versus natural immunity. So it's semantics. But that's how I learned the terms. Now, the shots are given roughly the first dose between ages 12 to 15 months, the second dose between 4 and 6 years old. One dose is 93% effective. Two doses are 97% effective. Some of us, when we were younger, might have only gotten one dose. But for the most part, a 93% efficacy is pretty darn good. And it's a live attenuated version. So rather than it being a killed skeleton, roughly, of the virus, it was a live weakened version. And some people feel that immunity is better because now you actually have a partial natural immunity because it was a weakened version and it was live virus that you became immune to by a very weakened version through the vaccine. But did you go through the whole measles outbreak? And did you, with the rash and the Koplik spots in the mouth and the coryza and the cough and the runny nose and the conjunctivitis? Maybe no, because with the vaccine, we don't want you to get full on measles. But the vaccine is supposed to be fairly effective. But you see, one dose is 93% effective, meaning 7% of the time people can still get measles. Two doses are 97% effective, meaning 3% of the time people can still get measles. So I'd like to know if that percentage is the same. If you take the percentage of people who were vaccinated in Texas or New Mexico that got measles, then that vaccine, that number might change. Another thing I'd like to know as a doctor and as a concerned citizen is how many of these individuals were migrants or illegal immigrants or people from another country. Is it that they're bringing this in? Is it that they have a susceptibility because they don't get the vaccine, or their vaccine might pale in comparison to our efficacious vaccines? This is simple data, and I don't understand why we don't have it by now. It's anybody who's got measles, you ask them, were you vaccinated or not? And you can make a spreadsheet. I'm no expert on Excel, but it's easy to do. Hi, patient number 252. Did you get vaccinated? Yes, no. Okay. We have your blood test so we can look at the strain. Thank you. Next one. I bet you could come up with some data within 20 minutes of asking everybody, especially since calculators instantaneously give you your numbers, but we still don't have that information. Why? Does the CDC not want us finding out that vaccinated people are getting this too? Do they not want to scare the public? Do they not want people to think that the vaccine isn't working and misconstrue the data? Just give us the data. Now, this isn't the Biden administration. This is the Trump administration. RFK Jr. is in charge, and he did promise transparency. So we should be getting transparency. I still don't understand why it's taking this long. But for those of you who are concerned, saying, look, I don't want measles. Okay, talk to your medical provider and see if you can get the vaccine or get the booster. Now, I remember trying to purchase the MMR vaccines in my office. This was about 15 years ago. a package of, I think for 10 shots, a vial of 10 shots was about $1,000. And that was 15 years ago. So the vaccine is not cheap. And so, one issue that might also be happening is if people are asking for it and their insurance doesn't pay, now they're faced with a high price of getting the vaccine. Most states have vaccine programs where it doesn't cost anything to the child or the parent to get their child vaccinated. But if you are not a part of that funding or grant program as a child and you're an adult, you might have to pay out of pocket. I'm going to look up really quickly now, roughly, what that would cost. And I apologize because I was just thinking about it now. Because I remember me stocking it was really, really expensive. And they're saying, yep, okay. So they say the retail price is $126.70, which means a vial of 10 is $1,200. So you can get the vaccine for about $100. You could use a GoodRx coupon. For some people, that $100, fine. They feel comfortable paying that. For others, it's a lot of money. So, I would definitely talk to your medical provider, see if this is something you need to do. But I really ask our public officials to be a lot more, I guess, transparent and give us the data we're asking. This has gone on too long for us to be still talking about, well, how many of these people were vaccinated? Why don't we know? Now, if somebody was born before 1957, they most likely got measles. The MMR vaccine, even though it was made in the late 50s, it started to become widespreadly given, I think, after 1963. Now, it might not have been the live attenuated. The live attenuated is a newer version. I believe it was the inactivated. And so the vaccine became available for us to give out in the 60s. And then I think they improved upon it in the late 60s. But they're saying if you had natural immunity before 1957, you might be okay. Of course, depending on if this measles is a new strain. Again, something we need clarified. If you were vaccinated with the less new and improved vaccine from 1963 to 1967, according to the CDC, you might be eligible for re-vaccination for 1 or 2 doses. Plus, there's a blood test to see if you have titers. That could be done as well. 1-877-DOC-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95.
Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I was on the phone with a patient this week, and as I was finishing, writing his medication, and I always ask him, is there anything else I could help you with? And he said, well, I've had 2 failed marriages. Do you know anybody single? Like, sorry, that's not what the service provides, but good luck with that. Okay? Well, yes, I do have some single friends, but I'm probably not going to match make anybody when I'm just supposed to be performing medicine. But that term failed marriage bugs me. I hear that a lot, where a divorce is the only thing that gets the credit or the notoriety for being a failed marriage. What about some of these marriages where there's domestic abuse, where there's animosity, and they're married, but they don't, talk to each other, they don't live with each other, separate rooms, etc. What about a family unit where the kids hate their parents? Is that maybe a failed marriage? We're going to be talking about later. Apparently, Ben Affleck is now talking about his relationship with Jennifer Lopez and getting married. I think he said he's embarrassed, and they might, and so people go, oh yeah, so this is Jennifer Lopez's 3rd maybe failed marriage or 4th. I don't know. I don't keep count. But, I sometimes a divorce is strategic. Now, I mean, if you say your vows, I'm with you till death do us part, and sickness and health till death do us part. Yes, that is then a breaking of vows if you end up getting divorced, because you vowed to be together for the rest of your lives, and sickness and in health till death do you part. For better, for worse, in sickness and health till death do you part. I don't remember my vows because I was just so nervous about sucking it in. Right. And the pictures, and I was standing on the wrong side. I stood on the wrong side. In a Jewish wedding, you're supposed to circle the groom, I think 7 times. Again, I don't remember. I was still half asleep because I was in my 4th year of medical school doing call, and I only had a 2-week break to get married, go on my honeymoon, and come back. And so after I landed, after the 7 circlings, I guess I stood on the men's side. Right? Even though my bridesmaid, my maid of honor was going to be my best friend who was a guy. We ended up not doing that because my mother-in-law didn't like the idea of him wearing a dress and all that. But anyway, so we never went through with it. But I'm standing on the men's side. So I'm looking at my brother, and I'm looking at it. It's like, okay, so I don't really remember the vows, but my guess is the vows had to be for better, for worse, and sickness and health, to death do you part. And so if you do divorce and decide to separate and end, or you broke those vows, you bailed when they were sick, or you were not faithful. Okay, yes, I could see why failure might come up as a term. But when somebody is divorced, or they say, I'm divorced, I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as a strategy. What if the argument is you're with somebody who's bad for you, who's toxic, who hurts you, can hurt the kids? Isn't it successful for you to get the hell away from that person and get the kids away from that person? I understand in society, and Dr. Laura Schlesinger, very anti-divorce. You shouldn't divorce. You made the decision. You stick with it. And I understand that was her thinking when I used to listen to her show 15 years ago. I don't know if she still feels that way. But I look at it as, I think it's a failed marriage if you continue to allow the toxicity and the animosity to thrive. And a successful divorce is one where everybody's amicable. You don't get the lawyers involved to the degree where everybody's doing the money grab. And it blows my mind how usually when people do break up, they want it to be amicable. They're like, let's make it simple. I don't want this to go on. I don't want there to be animosity. Let's just, and then all of a sudden the lawyers are like, well, yeah, but they're screwing you over. Don't you see that? So you need to now go on the offense, and you need to get, and then all of a sudden, the only person who wins are the lawyers. Now, mind you, there are some people that do get screwed, and that's why you have a lawyer to protect your interests. But by the time that's all said and done, everybody failed. So a successful divorce is one in which you could still be there for the kids. You could still, in essence, be a family unit, maybe not necessarily living together, in, having eventually new husbands or wives, as a part of this family, and where the kids are getting their needs met first and utmost as the top priority. And a divorce doesn't necessarily have to be a failure. I remember that Friends episode where Ross marries Rachel on a Vegas whim, and he didn't want to divorce her because then that would mean he's had, is it 3 or 4 failed marriages? I forget how many. And so that term has been used since the 90s, 2000, for years. And maybe we need to look at that differently. Now, and maybe some people got married for different reasons. Maybe their marriage was a complete success. They loved each other. They had kids. They supported each other during the time of their life, but they grew apart. When you use the term, we had a failed marriage, the kids feel like they were part of that failure because the kids were a product of that. So you got to watch your terminology. That's what I think we need to get rid of that terminology completely. Imagine being kids where you love your mom, you love your dad, and you keep hearing failed marriage. And you think because you were the product of that marriage, you contributed to that. Say we grew apart. Say we decided to end our partnership. How many partnerships have ended and it still worked out in their favor? Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, right? I believe they're not married. Does that mean it's failed? No, they have a very successful relationship. They chose not to marry. I believe that's still the case. But so if they break up, would that still be considered a failed? Oh, well, it's not a failed marriage because they weren't married. I think we're using these terms wrong. And I'm surprised they're still being used. So, my patient out there, I hope he finds love. I hope he finds a partnership. For those individuals who have multiple divorces or multiple issues in terms of finding a partner, why is that? Is it that you're forcing yourself to live with somebody you really don't want to live with? Is it that some people can't really live with other people? Is it that you haven't found your one true love? And with your one true love, they could burp, throw up, have diarrhea. Anything they do is magical. But for most of us, no. We put up with a lot. Okay, a fart will still stink, all right? Whether it's your true love or not. And so maybe you also need a sense of be more realistic. And this idea of marriage, I'm a proponent of. I love the idea of getting married. I got married. I hope my boys get married. I'm a big fan of that. But I think there's so much pressure that, you can't fight. You can't, not want to be in the same room with them sometimes. You not want to. It blows my mind how naive people are about relationships. It's very normal to want your own space. It's very normal to sometimes just want to go out with the guys. Just go out with your friends. It's very normal to sometimes want to sleep on a couch or in another room if the other person snores and keeps you up. If you get a better night's sleep, you know how many couples are freaked out because they get a better night's sleep sleeping alone? You can still be intimate and have sex, but then you might sleep better. However you sleep better, you sleep better. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a failed marriage. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.